A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jazz Singh from Jazz Real Estate Eview Group in Point Cook. By the way of introduction, I've got Nick Martinez.
Very good morning, everyone. Hope this week is coming at you nice and strong. It's looking to be a really, really good one for everyone here.
Absolutely exciting times ahead and exciting week it was, Nick. So obviously, as everyone knows, on Jazz TV Weekly, we talk about the market wrap, what's market doing. We also talk about our recent sales. We pick up one of the sales, obviously, as much as we would like to talk about a lot of sales in one show. But obviously, we'll try to cover off 27 Dunnings today. But for the sake of clarity, we'll start market wrap to start with. So let's go. What did Truganina track today, Nick?
Truganina, so we've reported 9 sales in Truganina over the last week, with the highest sale price being $800,000.
Beautiful.
In Truganina. Moving forward, we also took a peek at Tarneet. Tarneet had 24 sales, with the highest being an ex-display home at 1.15.
That was a pretty good sale there that we've seen in the office there, and also we had Point Cook recorded about 19 sales plus 1 at Dunnings, so makes it 20, with the highest sale price of approximately 1.15 here in Point Cook as well. Now, let's talk about the auction clearance rate. Auction clearance rate has been quite strong. Last week we had 80% auction clearance rate, week ending last Saturday. Last week it was 75%. The approximate number of auctions reported to REIV was 724, which is a pretty good and strong number there, I'd say, with 80%. While last year this time, Nick, we had 86%. What do you think about the auction clearance rate last week?
Look, I'm seeing that it was still pretty strong.
Yeah.
It was a good outcome for a lot of vendors across the country. We're seeing a lot of homes being sold under the hammer, which is what we want, showing us that the market is still there and the appetite is still there for those properties. Whereas the previous week prior to that, we saw 75%.
That's right,
clearance rates.
Exactly.
So it's good to see that obviously our clearance rates are still there, especially out of 724. That's quite a large number of homes that are being sold at auction. Similar to one that we're going to delve into later today.
Absolutely. We had one at auction as well, and obviously we had 100% clearance rate at our auctions last week. So I believe in terms of the market, let's touch on the markets a little bit. I would say the latest update that we have from The Economist, or perhaps looking at the signs in terms of the marketplace, is the buyers are still there. They are certainly being a little more careful than they were in the last sort of 6 to 12 months. However, good homes which are presented well are certainly attracting good buyers. Appetite's still there, and the migration from overseas is certainly seeing rental market being a bit strong as well. Rental market has been quite strong in the last 3 to 6 months anyways, but it's getting more stronger. Ideally, looking at the property market in the next 3 to 6 months, we personally believe the market is certainly going to be quite strong. However, not the same as it was in the last 3 to 6 months. Now, I always say to people, and I always strongly believe in that mantra as well, Nick, that choose an agent you like and trust.
Absolutely. I think the key with any relationship, not just with real estate agents, but any strong relationship is to have a strong foundation. That foundation is built up of things like honesty, trust, communication.
That's correct.
They're very key things in a relationship that you almost have to rely on to be able to utilize that relationship to its full strength.
I guess not only after the property sold, like I was talking to our client at 27 Dunnings like late last night as well. It's more about the commitment that you have with them. If someone gives you their property to sell, it's more around, it's like handing over a bag full of money to say, guys, look after my asset. So I suppose we take the responsibility quite strong in a very diligent manner. And I suppose clients do expect bare minimum integrity and obviously trusting the real estate agent's instinct and obviously their knowledge. And that's quite important. And understanding at every sale process is different. Like we had at 27 Dunnings, let's jump into it and understand how it was different and why and how the property got sold. It's an interesting one. It's not one of your regular auctions like we had 5 or 7 bidders and bids were coming left, right, center. And I guess that's where the fun part is, where you have skills to make sure you get an outcome for the vendors, even if you have lightened bidding activity on the property on the day itself. So let's jump on it. How many bidders that we had, Nick, on the day itself, and where's the property located?
So the property is located towards the further end, towards Seabrook.
Yep.
In Dunnings Road. It's a beautiful location. It's in the little service lane there, which is really, really nice, quiet location.
Yeah.
I think we had three or four bidders at the auction on Saturday. And so the bidding went on for approximately, I think it was about 10 minutes.
That's correct.
We were there out the front once the auction started. Obviously excluding any time that the auctioneer went in to speak with the vendor or anything like that. So let's dive in. Let's talk about, I guess, now that we've spoken, just touched on the auction itself. Let's go back in time.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the start of the campaign. And let's do what we do, and let's chat stats.
That's correct. Let's chat stats. I like that.
So
all right, let's do it. And I guess while you're getting the stats ready there, Nick, what I'd recommend also is for anyone who's selling their property, whether it's private sale or it's auction, it's more about focus on getting an outcome which is in your favor. And as Nick was mentioning just before, we had about 3 or 4 bidders there. Bidding activity was there, but it was quite slow. It wasn't that intense. However, we knew what's coming our way. And in terms of the market strategies, or perhaps the campaign reviews that we were doing throughout the campaign, each and every day, speaking to different buyers who have inspected the property, if I'm not wrong, Nick, that we had about nearly 79 people throughout the campaign, and we had a lot of feedback come through that helped our vendors to sort of understand the market for their home, and their reserve price was where they wanted the reserve price to be at, which we recommended them to set the reserve price a little higher there as well. So we have an opportunity to negotiate if in the event we pass in. And that's exactly what happened. We knew the property could potentially reach to a certain level, and we were correct on that with all due respect as well. And I guess that's when the real skills of a real estate agent came in play, where we were able to negotiate and get the outcome the vendors were looking for. Now let's just start with the stats. I'll let you run the stats there.
Absolutely. So the property it appeared in over 105,700 search results.
Wow,
it's a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of eyeballs looking at that property.
That's close to 4 times the amount of people that just live in Point Cook alone.
Absolutely. 100%.
So we had 7,700 property page views. That's, again, quite a lot.
Nearly 10,000, it's fair to say.
Getting close to. And we also had close to 200 property saves.
Oh, wow.
So we had 50 phone inquiries and 25 email inquiries.
Wow.
So let's dive in a little deeper to the actual views day by day and how the campaign ran.
Yeah, let's go through that. So I guess the stats when they started, how many views we had on the first day?
So first day we had 603 views.
Wow.
And that was compared to a market average of 259.
That's quite a strong number.
3 times the amount.
Wow.
So, and second day, we're still going strong.
Yep.
We're at 590.
Wow.
Where the market average is at 227.
And I believe probably throughout the campaign, if I'm looking at it correctly, throughout the campaign, we were pretty much looking stronger than the average views in the marketplace. What was the result there on the last day? How many views that we had on the last day?
The very last day of the campaign, we had 142 versus 23 market average.
Wow. So being quite strong. I mean, that tells the market about that property there. But again, at the same time, it's not about what the market dictates, what the property is worth. It's more around how we bring in our skills and strategies to maximize the outcome on the day itself. So let's jump on the numbers in terms of how the auction started and what level the auction got passed in. So the first bid came in at $850,000 from the gentleman who actually ended up purchasing the home. And congratulations if you are watching there. And obviously the vendors were inside the property. We had our auctioneer, Chris Melbourne from Soul Buy Group, who was and who is a great auctioneer and who was conducting the auction on that day on behalf of our lovely vendors. So the auction started with the small increments. A first bid at 850, if I remember correctly. Sometime when you're in that phase, then sometimes you tend to forget because you're busy in doing the crowd work. You'll remember everything if you're not doing the crowd work. So doing the crowd work, I can't really remember exactly the increments of the bid, but I do remember when we were doing the crowd work, 850 was the first bid, and then we had a next bid at $10,000 increment.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I would have been the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, being there, chatting with the buyers, learning a little bit more about their story and where they're looking to go for the auction. It makes it a little bit difficult to remember all the details. So I think we had a $10,000 increment, and then someone stepped up. We had a $25,000 increment. If
That's
I'm not
correct.
Wrong.
Exactly. That was a knockout bid the gentleman tried to make.
Yeah. It was, yeah. And then from that stage onward, we had a sneaky bid from a bidder in the back who was hiding out there.
Yeah, outside.
He came up with a $10,000 increment.
That's correct.
And then it was back and forth mainly between.
Then it came down about $5,000 each. At that time, the auctioneer felt the amount of level of interest or level of bidders that we had on the dates. It's ideal to take on $5,000 bid to bring it up to the level. So there were a few $5,000 bid to bring it across the line of 900,000 K mark. So the bidding then stopped at about $920,000 mark or circa around there. And then the auctioneer went inside and seeked the vendor's instructions. The vendor's reserve was there, and auction passed in. Obviously, the auctioneer came back outside and tried. Chris came back outside and then tried hard for about the next 5 minutes. There were no bids thereafter. The property then got passed in formally. Then we had two underbidders waiting outside. That's where the whole situation started, where we were negotiating with the highest bidder. And commendable job to the whole team, I guess. And obviously it was 1 hour and 45 minutes worth of discussions with the buyers to negotiate and get the outcome for the vendor. Went back and forth. The vendor's reserve price was obviously at that level, buyers were at that level. Within an hour and a half or so, we got to a point where we exceeded the vendor's expectation by a tad.
I think with an auction, it is an interesting scenario. It's definitely not something that anyone can just walk in and I guess kind of play out to their advantage.
Exactly.
And I think that's why it's so important that the training we do in the office is fundamental, realistically. Because that allows us to expand on our skills to be able to utilize what we did. And I think, especially for myself, working with some of those underbidders outside and keeping our potential options open and working while you were inside, working with obviously the highest bidder at the time is a key element of that.
That's correct.
Although it took, an hour and 45 minutes, eventually we got to the result where we wanted to be through all of that utilization of skills and techniques.
And I guess, as Nick mentioned, I would like to emphasize one thing, that training is critical, and having a good training is even important. And ideally, what I say to everyone is, and I strongly believe, if you train during the training, you would need less in the battlefield. So I guess it's an important task that the seller hands over. And if you don't have confidence and skills to manage the expectation of your seller, then I think we shouldn't be in the industry.
I agree. And I think especially, I guess, jumping back to our training, I am a big fan of everything we do in the office with training. It isn't always just the straight up bidders that go, yep, I'm willing to put another $25,000 bid here. It's all about actually making it difficult.
That's correct.
And we find that I actually found that with 27 Dunnings, there was a bit of that challenge. And I noticed a few traits that we played out in the office.
That's correct.
And it is about working with that to meet the vendor's expectations. And without that level of training, you just can't get there.
Exactly, because every scenario is different. Every human being, we need to remember, every purchaser has their own reason for either paying an amount which is going to get them the property, or not paying that amount. You need to understand the underlying reason why, rather than listening to what they're saying. It's more about understanding the reason why in everything is important in your life as well in general. Not trying to be a motivational speaker here, but again, why in general is critical. You need to understand why.
And I think, honestly, Jazz, at this stage, you're the best person to speak about this. Obviously, you're purchasing a property now. You know what it's like to be in that emotional journey. And so that also gives you the skills. I was in that situation not too long ago myself.
Absolutely.
I know we both know what it's like to feel those emotions in that journey, and it allows us to channel that and utilize that in our day-to-day.
And I guess it comes down to the part where you keep sharpening your skills, you keep polishing your craft, and that's what it's all about. We love what we do, as we always say, and then we'd love to look after you in the future as well. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. This is all from us today at Jazz TV Weekly. We'll come back to you with the next Jazz TV Weekly next week on Monday. And up until then, please look after yourself. Have a lovely week. From myself, Jazz.
And from myself, Nick, and the rest of the team, we wish you guys a great week. See you soon.